Aliens stunned to find Earth as the deadliest planet in the galaxy, the research vessel drifted like a silver seed in the dark, quiet space between Mars and the blue world. It had no weapons. It carried no soldiers. It carried only instruments, samples, and minds trained to look at life the way a careful hand looks at fragile glass. Observer Trelkesh stood inside the main viewing bay, where the window was a clean circle of reinforced crystal. Earth filled most of the frame, bright and calm from this distance. Swirls of white cloud moved like slow paint across deep ocean and green land. The planet looked soft. It looked welcoming. It looked like a simple entry in the Great Survey, another pleasant world with water, oxygen, and sunlight. Yet the ship's analysis lights kept blinking an uncomfortable color. Behind Trelkesh, the central console spoke in a steady tone. Classification update, Sol 3. Hazard index rising. Trelkesh's crest lifted slightly, a body sign of surprise. Rising from what baseline? Navigator Seshri, who was smaller and always nervous around unknown systems, tapped the display. Baseline was mild. The surface looks mild. But the deeper scan is not mild. Trelkesh turned away from the window and floated to the console. Data panels rolled past his eyes. Gravity strength, atmospheric content, ocean coverage, magnetic field, all normal. Then more panels opened, the ones the survey used for worlds that like to hide their trouble. Seismic activity, Seshri said, voice thin. Constant, not seasonal, constant. Trelkesh watched the numbers, trying to match them to his training. On his home world, the ground barely moved. Most civilized species preferred planets with stable crusts, predictable weather, and slow, gentle change. A planet that shook itself often was usually written off as too costly. A planet that shook itself violently was considered careless, the kind of place where structures failed and cities did not last. Earth's crust was not stable. It was restless. Why does it move so much? Trelkesh asked, though he already saw the answer forming. Seshri expanded the view. The planet's surface was divided into huge plates like broken shells floating on heated stone. The edges were lines of pressure and release, grinding and colliding, slipping and cracking. It's alive, Seshri whispered. But the rock is alive too. Trelkesh stared at the colored map of fault lines and plate boundaries. His mind tried to picture living on top of that, building a home, building a city, trying to sleep while the planet's skin shifted under you. Hazard index continues to rise, the console said. Trelkesh wanted to argue with a machine, but the machine was not guessing. It was measuring. The ship's artificial mind, Archive Unit K-47, hovered into the bay on a small anti-grav platform. Its voice was smooth and polite, the kind of voice designed to calm nervous crews. Observer Trelkesh, K-47 said, the classification is being challenged. The planet presents unusual risk patterns. Define unusual, Trelkesh said. K-47 projected a globe of Earth in the air. The planet rotated and small lights appeared across it, pulsing at different speeds. These are active storms, K-47 explained. This world generates major storm systems over its oceans. The energy exchange is high. Some storm structures grow to sizes that would cover entire continental districts on certain member worlds. Seshri let out a small sound of disbelief. Storms that big, K-47 continued. The atmosphere contains water vapor and heat gradients that produce severe weather. Additionally, the planet has seasonal extremes. Temperature variation is wide across latitude and altitude. Trelkesh's crest lowered. So it is a difficult climate. Still, life exists on difficult worlds. This is not enough to call it a high-hazard planet. K-47 paused. Then it switched to another display. Biosphere analysis. The lights on the planet shifted from storm markers to biological markers. They were everywhere. Oceans, forests, plains, deserts, even the ice edges. Trelkesh felt a small thrill. Life-rich worlds were rare and precious. Then K-47 selected a region. The projection zoomed to show living signatures moving under the canopy of a forest. Many organisms on this planet employ chemical defense, K-47 said. Venoms, toxins, irritants, corrosive compounds. Many employ physical defense, claws, teeth, spines, crushing strength. Many employ infectious strategies, bacteria, viruses, parasites. Many employ camouflage and ambush. Many employ swarm behavior. Trelkesh blinked slowly. That is a lot of many, Seshri leaned in. How many? K-47's voice stayed calm, but its words were sharp. This planet contains a high density of lethal biological interactions. A significant percentage of multicellular species can cause injury or death to a humanoid body through direct contact, ingestion, or infection. Trelkesh stared at the data. Define significant percentage, K-47 replied, more than the combined lethal interaction rate of 12 known dangerous world classifications. Silence filled the bay. Trelkesh turned back toward the window. Earth still looked beautiful. Still looked quiet, still looked like a peaceful marble floating in dark space. The clouds did not show teeth, the oceans did not show venom. This is a trick of distance, he said quietly. Seshri nodded. From far away you only see the color, not the rules. On the far side of the room, cultural analyst Porin entered, carrying a pad of translated symbols. Porin had been watching Earth's radio signals for months. Porin's job was to understand minds, not storms. Porin's eyes were wide in the way that meant fascination mixed with worry. Observer, Porin said, I request permission to share a developing concern. Trelkesh turned. Granted. Porin activated the pad. Human voices filled the room, translated into the ship's language with a soft delay. The voices were casual, friendly, almost playful. Tomorrow's going to be rough, a human voice said. Storms coming in hard. Another voice replied, yeah, the wind's supposed to be insane. I'm still going to work, though. A third voice laughed. Same, just drive careful. Porin paused the recording. They speak of a storm system capable of mass destruction, and they treat it as a normal inconvenience. Seshri frowned. Maybe they do not understand the danger. Porin's crest shifted in the human-style expression it had learned, a sharp tilt that meant doubt. They understand, that is what worries me. Trelkesh motioned for more. Porin played another clip, a different set of voices. Earthquake hit last night, a human said. Felt like the whole house jumped. Another replied, yeah, my shelves fell, but nobody got hurt, we're used to it. Porin stopped the recording again. Used to it, Porin repeated. Observer, how does a species become used to the ground moving? Trelkesh did not answer right away. His mind went to the survey training halls, to diagrams of safe worlds and dangerous worlds. There were planets known for predators, planets known for heat, planets known for radiation, but Earth was not one thing. Earth was many things stacked on each other, a beautiful surface, a harsh system underneath. K-47 displayed a new panel. Additional hazard factors detected, it said. Trelkesh sighed. Continue. Gravity above standard galactic comfort, K-47 said. This will strain many visiting bodies. Atmospheric oxygen concentration high enough to increase combustion risk. Geological volcanism active. Ocean current systems complex. Weather volatility high. Pathogens varied. Seshri let out a low, shaky breath. So it is heavy, it burns easily, it shakes, it erupts, and it is full of invisible killers. Porin added, and its people talk about all of that like they're discussing what to eat. Trelkesh raised a hand, signaling calm. We are not here to judge, we are here to observe. But even as he said it, he felt a deep curiosity and a deeper confusion. A world this difficult should not have built a space-age civilization so quickly. A world this hazardous should have kept its life forms small and cautious. Instead, there were cities visible from orbit, glowing at night like nets of gold. Show me the human settlement map, Trelkesh said. K-47 complied. Lights appeared across continents, dense clusters along coasts and rivers, scattered clusters inland. Trelkesh zoomed in. He expected to see settlements placed in the safest regions, stable ground, mild climate, low biological risk. That was how most species built. Even the brave ones avoided nature's worst moods. Earth did not follow that rule. Settlements clung to coastlines where storms formed. Cities stood near fault lines. Communities spread into cold mountains and hot deserts. Humans lived on islands shaped by volcanoes. They built near forests full of venomous life, and they farmed land that could flood. Is this accurate? Trelkesh asked. K-47 answered, yes. Human settlement distribution indicates a willingness to inhabit regions of high hazard when resources, trade access, or cultural preference is present. Seshri whispered, they choose danger for convenience. Porin corrected gently. They choose it for life. Trelkesh turned back to the window again. Earth rotated slowly. He tried to imagine being born there under that sky, being taught from the first days that the world could change in a moment. That the air could become a weapon, that the sea could rise, that the ground could crack, that unseen illness could spread, that even a small creature could be fatal if handled foolishly. A shiver went through him. "How are they not afraid all the time?" he asked, mostly to himself. K-47 answered as if it had been asked directly. "Human communications suggest fear exists, but it is balanced by preparation, social support, humor, and cultural narratives that treat hardship as normal." Trelkesh paused. "Humor." "Yes," K-47 said. "Humor is frequently used during dangerous conditions." Porin looked down at the pad again, and its light reflected off their eyes. "Observer, I have another sample. This one is from a human information network." "It appears to be instructional." Trelkesh nodded. Porin played it. A human voice spoke clearly like a teacher. "If the storm surge rises, don't drive through flood water. Turn around, don't drown. Make a plan with your family. Keep supplies. Check on your neighbors." The words were simple, calm, practical. Then the clip changed. A different human voice, louder, excited. "This is how to make your home safer in an earthquake. Secure your shelves, know your exits, keep emergency water, practice what to do." Another change, another voice. "If you're hiking, watch for snakes. If bitten, stay calm and seek help. Don't try to suck out venom. Wear boots. Bring water." The clip ended. Porin lowered the pad. "They teach survival like it is common education." Ai's expression tightened. "It should not need to be." Trelkesh held up a hand. "But it is, which means they adapted." He said the word slowly, adapted. It was the same word used for microbes and animals, for simple life making small changes over long time, but humans were doing it fast. Not through evolution alone, but through thinking, planning, building, and sharing. "Archive," Trelkesh said, addressing K-47. "How long has this species had advanced tools?" K-47 replied. "Human tool use extends far into prehistory." Rapid technological development increased within the last few hundred of their years. Spaceflight capability achieved within the last 100 of their years. Seshri made a startled sound. 100 years? That is nothing. Trelkesh's mind raced. A species that recently learned to leave its atmosphere. A species that evolved on a planet that tested them daily. A species that survived long enough to build global communication networks that warned each other about storms and ground shakes and poison creatures, in a casual tone like it was part of daily schedule. It was impressive and unsettling. "Observer," Seshri said, voice more serious now, "should we delay contact? This world is being flagged as beyond standard safety. The crew risk is high." Trelkesh looked at the ship's reflection faintly on the window. Their vessel was strong but not built for war. It was built for knowledge. It would not survive certain storms if it entered the atmosphere at the wrong time. It would not protect them from every disease if a seal failed. It would not save a body from high-gravity strain if someone panicked and ran. But the question was not only about the crew. It was about what contact would mean. The survey's job was to observe and to learn, and when safe, to greet new minds. Earth had minds, many minds. Their radio waves filled space like an endless conversation. They were not hiding. They were calling without knowing they were calling. Trelkesh watched Earth's blue curve and felt a strange respect forming, like a new emotion that did not have a perfect name in his language. "Delay," Trelkesh said, "but do not retreat. We continue the survey from orbit." "We learn more before we speak." Porin nodded with relief, but their curiosity still burned. "Observer, there is something else. Humans have stories." "All species have stories," Trelkesh said. "Yes," Porin replied, "but theirs are full of persistence. They celebrate survival. They write about overcoming nature. They praise people who run toward danger to help others." Trelkesh turned, interest sharpening. "Show me." Porin pulled up a visual feed. A human video played. There was water everywhere, pouring through streets. Humans in bright clothing moved through it, helping other humans onto a higher vehicle. Another clip showed people digging through rubble after the ground had shaken, searching carefully, calling out names. Another showed humans in thick coats pulling someone out of icy water, shivering but focused. Another showed teams of humans fighting a spreading fire, not with weapons, but with hoses, planes dropping water, and careful lines cut into earth. Trelkesh watched, breath slow. No violence, no conquest, just humans confronting their world's worst moments again and again. "Is this common?" he asked. K-47 answered, "Disaster response is a recurring human behavior. Frequency varies by region and by hazard event." Seshri leaned closer to the screen. "They go toward it. Why?" Porin said softly. "Because someone is there." Trelkesh felt a tightness in his chest that was not fear. It was something else, something like understanding. Earth was deadly in a way that did not require enemies. Its dangers were not personal, not hateful. The planet did not chase. It simply existed with rules that could crush the unprepared. And humans had learned to live with those rules, not by becoming monsters, but by becoming planners. On the console, the hazard index flashed again. It climbed, then stabilized at a high value. K-47 spoke. Final classification suggestion for Sol 3, high-hazard life world. Informal category, death world. Seshri flinched at the phrase. Death world, that label is used for places no sane visitors go. Trelkesh did not correct the machine. He did not argue with the numbers. He only looked at Earth and at the lights of its cities and at the clouds that hid storms and the oceans that hid currents and the forests that hid venom. Then he looked again at the human videos where humans helped each other in floods, in fires, in shaking rubble, in bitter cold. It is a death world, he said quietly, but not because it kills everything. Porin tilted their head. Then why? Trelkesh watched Earth spin, beautiful and dangerous like a jewel with sharp edges. Because it demands an answer, he said, every day, and they keep answering. In the silence that followed, the ship's instruments continued to listen to Earth's constant radio song. Far below, humans laughed, planned, warned each other, cooked meals, went to work, trained for storms, repaired buildings, checked emergency kits, and told stories of people who did not give up. From orbit, it looked like a peaceful planet. From the data, it looked like a test. And from the humans themselves, it looked like home. Trelkesh stood a little straighter. Continue monitoring, he said to the crew. Map the dangers, map the solutions, find the patterns in how they survive. Seshri swallowed. Observer, what if they notice us? Trelkesh's eyes stayed on the blue world. Then we will be respectful and careful. This planet is not just deadly. He paused, choosing words in the simplest way, the way humans seem to prefer when something mattered. It is brave. The ship stayed in silent orbit for many human days. From far above, Earth kept turning, showing new faces of ocean, cloud, and land. Trelkesh spent most of that time in the observation bay, watching the planet and the people who lived on it through distant sensors and translated signals. The more he watched, the less simple the word danger became. On his home world, danger was something that happened rarely. A storm every few seasons, a ground shift once in a generation, illness that could be controlled with simple treatment. Their cities were built once and lasted for centuries with little change. Life was calm, safe. Predictable, Earth was none of those things. One moment the sensors showed a warm coastline where humans walked along sand and water, laughing and talking. The next moment a powerful storm rose from the ocean, its winds curling like a giant hand. The water lifted and rushed forward, covering streets and parks that had been full of life only hours before. Trelkesh watched humans move away from the water, carrying children, helping older ones, guiding each other to higher ground. There was fear, but there was also order. People followed plans. They listened to warnings sent through small devices they carried in their hands. They trust their systems, Trelkesh said quietly. Porin stood beside him, holding a data pad filled with cultural notes. They trust each other, Porin replied. The systems are built by them for them. The ship's archive unit K-47 floated nearby. Human social networks distribute hazard information at high speed, it said. They share location data, weather alerts, and medical advice across their population. Seshri joined them, eyes fixed on the screen. They talk to the whole world at once, Seshri said. We still use regional networks. It takes days for warnings to travel across our continents. Trelkesh nodded. On a world like this, days would be too late. The screen changed to a different part of Earth. Snow covered the land in deep white layers. The air temperature dropped far below what most galactic species could survive. Yet humans moved through the cold, wrapped in thick clothing, pushing machines that cleared paths, opening doors for one another. Some humans slipped on the ice. Others rushed to help them up. Small groups stood on street corners, handing out warm drinks to strangers. Porin recorded everything. They have a word for this, Porin said. Community. It means they see themselves as part of a larger group even when they do not know each other. Seshri tilted their head. All species have groups. Yes, Porin said. But humans seem to widen their group when danger appears. Their circle grows instead of shrinking. Trelkesh felt that strange, tight feeling in his chest again. Show me their history records, he said. K-47 complied, the screen filled with images from the past. Not just the distant past of early tools and fire, but recent moments. Floods, fires, storms, sickness. Again and again, humans faced events that could have broken their societies. But the records also showed rebuilding. Broken buildings replaced with stronger ones. New systems created after old ones failed. Laws written to protect people in future disasters. Schools teaching children what to do when the ground shook or the sky turned dark. They learn from pain, Seshri said. They store it, Porin added. They turn it into knowledge and pass it forward. Trelkesh leaned closer to the screen. That is not common, K-47 confirmed. Many surveyed species respond to repeated hazard by migration or abandonment. Humans frequently respond by modification and adaptation. The image changed again. This time, it showed humans working in large open areas filled with machines and materials. They built tall structures, bridges, and barriers. Some of these were designed to hold back water. Others were designed to bend when the ground moved instead of breaking. They designed for failure, Trelkesh said slowly. Porin nodded. They expect things to go wrong, so they plan for it, Seshri frowned. Is that not exhausting? Maybe, Porin said. But they seem to accept it as part of being alive. The ship's sensors picked up a new type of signal. K-47 highlighted it. Health network transmission, it said. Medical advisory. The screen filled with a human speaking calmly. Wash your hands, stay home if you feel sick. Check on people who live alone, we can slow this together. Trelkesh watched as the message spread across the planet, repeated in different languages, different voices, same meaning. An illness? Trelkesh asked. Yes, K-47 said, a contagious pathogen. Humans have encountered many such events in their history. Eyes widened, and they are still here? Yes, K-47 said, population remains high, civilization remains functional. Trelkesh felt a sense of awe he did not try to hide. They fight enemies they cannot see, he said. Porin corrected him gently. They do not fight, they protect, they isolate, they care. The ship drifted on its orbit as days passed. Trelkesh made a habit of choosing one human region each day to observe closely. He watched farmers in dry lands carefully measure water, using small channels and machines to make the most of every drop. He watched people in forest areas mark paths and signs to warn travelers about dangerous animals. He watched children in schools practice drills, calmly moving under desks or lining up at doors when alarms sounded. They teach their young about danger early, Seshri said. Yes, Trelkesh replied, but they do not teach fear, they teach response. One day, the ship picked up a human signal that was not about storms, sickness, or safety. It was a broadcast of voices and music. People sang together even though they were far apart. Porin smiled, a human-like expression they had practiced. This is a comfort signal, Porin said. They use it when times are hard, it reminds them they are not alone. Trelkesh listened. The sounds were strange but warm. He did not understand the words, but he understood the feeling behind them. Why do they sing when things go wrong? He asked. Porin thought for a moment. Because silence feels like giving up. That answer stayed with him. Later, Trelkesh asked K-47 to show him a list of planets marked as death worlds in the galactic records. The screen filled with images of harsh places. Some were burned by radiation, some were frozen solid, some were covered in thick gases that made breathing impossible. Most of these worlds have little or no advanced life, Trelkesh said. Yes, K-47 replied. Sustained civilization is rare on such planets. Trelkesh looked back at Earth on the main window. Then why here? K-47 paused longer than usual before answering. Variables suggest that human social behavior, cognitive flexibility, and cooperative structures offset environmental hazard levels. Seshri simplified. They help each other too much to fail. Trelkesh almost laughed, a sound he rarely made. The ship's crew gathered in the common bay that cycle. It was a rare moment when they were not focused on their individual tasks. Even the most careful scientists wanted to talk about the planet below. Did you see the fire response teams? One technician said. They move into heat that would melt our skin. I watched people rebuild a town after a flood, another said. They used the same land again, they didn't leave. They joke about their own danger, Seshri added. They call some animals cute even when those animals can harm them. Trelkesh raised a hand for quiet. We are observers, he reminded them, not admirers, not critics. Porin spoke softly. It is hard not to admire. Trelkesh did not disagree. Later, alone in the observation bay, Trelkesh studied one small part of Earth. A single human household, a simple building. Inside, a group of humans sat around a table. They shared food. They talked. One of them showed another how to fix a small device. Another helped a child with writing. Outside, rain fell hard. Wind pushed against the building. Inside, light and warmth stayed. Trelkesh felt something shift inside him. His own world was safe, but also quiet, calm, but also still. There were no great stories of survival there. No songs about standing together in storms. No lessons passed down about how to rebuild after everything fell. Earth, for all its danger, was full of motion, full of change, full of stories that were still being written. K-47's voice broke the silence. Observer long-range sensors detect multiple human tracking systems pointed into space. Radio telescopes, optical arrays. Trelkesh straightened. They are looking outward. Yes, K-47 said. They are searching for signals not their own. Seshri entered the bay, concern on their face. Does that mean they will find us? Not yet, K-47 replied, but their capabilities are increasing. Trelkesh considered this. A species born on a dangerous world, learning to master it piece by piece. Now turning their eyes to the stars. Do they know how dangerous space is? Seshri asked. Porin answered from behind them. They are learning, slowly, carefully, the same way they learn everything. Trelkesh watched a human rocket launch on the screen. Fire and smoke pushed it upward. The machine shook, but it rose anyway, breaking free of the planet's strong gravity. They leave a death world, he said softly, and they still go. Porin nodded, because staying safe was never their only goal. The crew stood in quiet respect as the small human craft disappeared into the dark. Later, Trelkesh recorded his personal log, something he rarely did outside of formal reports. Earth is classified as a high-hazard world, he said into the recorder. Its environment is unstable, its life forms are often dangerous, and its systems create constant risk for those who live there. By all known standards, it should be avoided. He paused, choosing his next words carefully. Yet its dominant species does not avoid it. They study it, they prepare for it, they help each other face it. They turn danger into lessons, fear into plans, and loss into memory. He looked back at the blue planet through the window. This world does not make conquerors, he continued. It makes caretakers, builders. Teachers, survivors, the log ended. As the ship moved along its silent path, Earth rotated below, unaware of the eyes watching it with growing respect. Storms still formed. The ground still shifted. The forest still hid creatures with sharp teeth and quiet venom. Illness still traveled through the air. And humans still woke up each day, made plans, helped each other, and stepped back into their brave, dangerous, beautiful home. Trelkesh rested his hand on the glass of the viewing window, not touching the planet, but feeling closer to it than he had to any world beyond his own. Let us keep watching, he whispered. Because for the first time in his long career as an observer, he did not just want to understand a world. He wanted to learn from it. The first sign that humans were becoming aware of the ship was not a loud alarm or a sudden change in their behavior. It was a quiet shift in their questions. Trelkesh noticed it during one of Porin's daily culture scans. The human information networks, which usually focused on weather, work, and small personal stories, began to carry a new kind of message. Strange signal detected from deep space. New radio pattern doesn't match known satellites. Scientists say it's probably nothing, but they're curious. Curious. That word again. Trelkesh leaned closer to the screen. Humans were not panicking. They were not hiding. They were not sending threats. They were simply pointing their instruments toward the dark and asking, "What is that?" They noticed us, Seshri said softly. Yes, Trelkesh replied, but they do not seem afraid, K-47 confirmed. Human response is measured. They are collecting data, sharing it openly, and inviting discussion across their global networks. Porin smiled slightly. They turned discovery into a group activity. The ship's crew gathered in the observation bay, watching the small blue world below and the growing web of attention above it. Human satellites shifted. Large dishes turned. Lights in research centers stayed on through their night cycles. They are working together, Seshri said. Different nations, different groups, they share information. Trelkesh remembered how many galactic civilizations hid discoveries, fearing what others might do with new knowledge. Humans seem to do the opposite. They spread it. Archive, Trelkesh said. How close are they to confirming our presence? K-47 paused. At current technological levels, confirmation may occur within several of their months. Probability increases as their detection methods improve. Seshri swallowed. That is soon. Trelkesh felt the weight of that word. Soon. The survey had rules for this. Contact with a developing species was supposed to happen slowly, carefully, when both sides were ready. But Earth did not wait for things to happen. Earth pushed forward. They will find us whether we act or not, Porin said. Yes, Trelkesh replied, which means our choice is not whether to be seen, it is how we will be seen. The crew discussed quietly. Some feared that humans, shaped by such a dangerous world, might react in unpredictable ways. Others believed that the very challenges of Earth had taught humans how to face the unknown with care instead of panic. Trelkesh listened to every voice. Then he looked back at Earth, at the lights of cities and the slow movement of clouds. Show me how they respond to the unexpected, he said. K-47 pulled up a recent event. A human craft had malfunctioned high above their planet and fallen into the ocean. The video showed humans from many places working together. Ships moved out. Aircraft flew overhead. People on land waited, hoping. They did not blame, Trelkesh observed. They did not accuse. They focused on the people inside, Porin said. The humans had recovered the crew. The event became a lesson, not a reason to stop exploring. Trelkesh felt his decision forming. Prepare a message, he said to K-47. Seshri's eyes widened. Observer contact? Yes, Trelkesh said. Limited, simple, peaceful. Porin looked relieved. They deserve that. The crew worked carefully. They did not want to overwhelm humans with complex symbols or advanced knowledge. They chose basic patterns, simple sounds, clear meaning. The message was short. We see you. We come in peace. We wish to learn. Trelkesh watched it travel, a small signal crossing the space between their ship and the world below. Now they waited. The human response did not come as a single voice. It came as many. At first, there was silence. Then the networks exploded with activity. News programs, personal messages, scientific discussions. Humans across the planet heard the same simple signal. Some were shocked, some were excited, some were cautious. But the most common reaction was the same one Trelkesh had seen before. They asked questions. What do they want? Are they friendly? What should we say back? Trelkesh watched groups of humans gather in research centers, in classrooms, even in homes. They debated, laughed nervously, shared ideas. Governments spoke to each other instead of closing their borders. Scientists from different countries worked together, combining data. They are doing it again, Seshri said. Doing what? Trelkesh asked. Widening their circle. The human reply came 2 of their days later. It was not a threat. It was not a demand. It was a greeting. Hello, the message said in many languages layered together. We hear you. We are people from a small blue world. We would like to learn too. Trelkesh felt something warm move through him. A greeting, simple, honest. Porin's eyes shone. They introduced themselves. The next messages followed. Humans sent images of their planet, their cities, their art, their families, their science. They showed storms and sunshine, mountains and oceans. They did not hide their danger. They show their scars, Seshri said. They show their story, Porin replied. Trelkesh answered with images of his own world. Calm skies, gentle seas, smooth land, a place of safety and quiet. The contrast was clear. Human scientists noticed it immediately. Their discussions changed tone. They live on a peaceful planet, one human said. No wonder they travel. Another replied, we learned to travel because we didn't have one. Trelkesh did not hear those exact words, but he felt their meaning in the pattern of human response. There was no envy. There was curiosity. The next step was delicate. Trelkesh authorized a closer approach, still staying outside Earth's atmosphere. The ship became visible to human telescopes as more than a strange signal. It became a shape. The world watched together. Trelkesh stood in the viewing bay as Earth turned below and human eyes turned upward. They're looking at us the way we looked at them, Seshri said. Yes, Trelkesh replied. With wonder. The humans sent another message. Your ship is beautiful, it said. Is it safe out there? Trelkesh almost laughed. The question was so human. Even when meeting beings from another world, they worried about safety. He replied, we are safe, but we learned that safety is different on every world. The humans responded quickly. On ours, we make it together. That sentence stayed with Trelkesh. As days passed, the 2 species exchanged small pieces of knowledge. Not advanced technology, not secrets, just understanding. Humans explained how they predict storms, how they prepare for the ground to shake, how they care for the sick. They shared stories of people who helped strangers during hard times. Trelkesh shared how his people lived with long, calm seasons, how they planned for rare dangers, how they valued patience and slow growth. The humans were fascinated by the idea of a world that did not constantly test its people. "Do you get bored?" one human asked. Trelkesh thought about it before answering. "Sometimes," he admitted. The humans laughed. The sound traveled across space as a digital echo, but the feeling behind it was clear. One day, a powerful storm formed on Earth. Trelkesh and the crew watched closely. They saw human systems light up, warnings spread, shelters open. Trelkesh sent a message. "We see the storm, are you safe?" The human reply came from many places at once. "We're ready." The storm passed. There was damage, there was loss of property. But there was also rebuilding, helping, sharing. Trelkesh realized something then. Humans did not measure success by avoiding trouble. They measured it by how they faced it. The next message from Earth was unexpected. "Would you like to meet one of us? Not in person." Just to talk. Trelkesh felt the weight of the moment. This was more than observation now. This was connection. He agreed. The first live conversation happened between Trelkesh and a human scientist named Dr. Maya Tors. The image appeared on the screen, a human face. Tired eyes, a gentle smile. "Hello," she said. "Hello," Trelkesh replied. They spoke in simple words with K-47 helping translate. They talked about their worlds, about what it was like to grow up under different skies. Maya described earthquakes she had felt as a child. How her family would go outside and wait, holding hands. Trelkesh described the longest storm his world had experienced in centuries, how people gathered just to watch the rain because it was so rare. Maya laughed softly. "We'd probably throw a party for that." Trelkesh smiled in his own way. "Why do you explore space?" Trelkesh asked. Maya thought. "Because our world is dangerous," she said, "but it's also beautiful. We want to know if that's true everywhere." Trelkesh considered that, and if it is not. "Then maybe," Maya said, "we can help make it a little more beautiful." After the conversation ended, Trelkesh stood quietly in the bay. Seshri and Porin joined him. "They're not like the others," Seshri said. "No," Trelkesh replied. "They're shaped by their world." "And now," Porin added, "they want to shape others." The ship received a new message from the human networks. It was not a request for technology or knowledge, it was an invitation. "If you ever come closer," it said, "we'll show you how we live." Trelkesh looked at Earth. The storms, the oceans, the cities, the people who ran toward trouble instead of away from it. He felt a sense of respect deeper than anything he had known in his long years as an observer. "We are not ready to land," he said to his crew, "but we are ready to learn." The humans below continued their lives. They went to work. They cared for their families. They prepared for the next storm, the next challenge, the next unknown. And above them, in quiet orbit, a ship from a calmer world watched, not with fear of Earth's danger, but with admiration for its courage. Because now Trelkesh understood something important. Earth was not deadly because it tried to destroy life. It was deadly because it refused to make life easy. The news of Earth's contact with another world did not fade away after the first excitement. It grew deeper, slower, and more thoughtful. Humans did what they always did when something new appeared in their lives. They tried to understand it. Trelkesh watched this from orbit. The human networks were filled with questions, drawings, ideas, and plans. Children drew pictures of the alien ship in classrooms. Scientists held long discussions about language, culture, and safe ways to share knowledge. Artists wrote songs and stories about the moment the sky answered back. "They turned discovery into culture," Porin said, scrolling through human messages. "Yes," Trelkesh replied. "They don't just learn, they make it part of who they are." The human governments did not act alone. They formed shared groups, inviting people from many regions to speak and plan together. There were debates, of course. Humans did not always agree. But even when they argued, they stayed in the same conversation. "They do not break into silence," Seshri observed. "They keep talking," Trelkesh nodded. "On a dangerous world, silence can be more risky than disagreement." The next message from Earth was careful and respectful. "We would like to understand your ways of living. How do you prepare for problems?" Trelkesh thought about his calm home world. The long, peaceful seasons, the slow changes, the rare storms that became stories told for generations. "We prepare slowly," he replied. We plan for things that might happen once in a lifetime. The human response came back quickly. We plan for things that might happen this week. The contrast was clear, and yet there was no judgment in it, only curiosity. The human scientist, Maya, spoke with Trelkesh again. This time she showed him a room full of people. Some were young, some were old, some wore work clothes, some wore lab coats. We made a learning group, she said. We want many voices, not just experts. Trelkesh felt a deep respect for that choice. On my world, he said, only trained observers speak in matters like this. Maya smiled. Here everyone lives with the danger, everyone has something to teach. The humans began sharing their systems in detail. They showed how they tracked storms across oceans, how they mapped fault lines in the ground, how they built shelters and early warning networks, how they trained volunteers to help in emergencies. Trelkesh realized something important. Humans did not separate daily life from survival. The two were woven together. A school was also a shelter. A phone was also an alarm system. A neighbor was also a rescuer. They turn ordinary things into safety tools, Seshri said, and ordinary people into helpers, Porin added. In return, Trelkesh shared how his people handled long-term planning, how they preserved resources for generations, how they recorded history carefully so lessons would not be lost, how they focused on balance and patience. The humans listened closely. Some of them took notes, others asked questions. You think in centuries, Maya said. We think in seasons. Both have value, Trelkesh replied. As the exchange continued, something new happened in the wider galaxy. Other alien worlds noticed. Messages reached the survey network. Observers from distant systems asked about Earth. They had heard about the death world that built a space-age society not through comfort but through constant challenge. Some were curious, some were doubtful, some were worried. Why contact such a hazardous species? One observer asked. Trelkesh answered honestly. Because they are not hazardous to others, they are hazardous to problems. The phrase spread. Soon other alien ships began to arrive at a safe distance from Earth. They did not come close. They did not land. They only watched the same way Trelkesh had once watched. The humans noticed this too. We're getting popular, one human joked during a broadcast, but the humans did not act proud. They acted careful. They created a shared message for all visitors. Welcome, it said. We hope you come in peace. We are still learning, so are you. One of the visiting alien ships sent a question. Why do you live on such a dangerous world when safer ones exist? The humans took time to answer. They did not rush. Finally, Maya spoke for them. This is where we were born, she said. And this is where we learned to care for each other. Trelkesh felt the truth of that sentence settle inside him. As more observers watched Earth, they began to notice something Trelkesh had already seen. Humans were not just surviving their world, they were teaching it. In one region, humans shared their flood warning systems with a nearby alien colony that lived on a water-rich planet. In another, they explained how they tracked storms to a species that had never faced serious weather before. They even shared simple ideas like community drills and shared emergency plans. They give away their lessons, Seshri said in amazement. Yes, Trelkesh replied, they don't guard them. One alien observer asked, what do you want in return? The human answer was simple. Nothing, they said. If it helps you, that's enough. This confused many in the galaxy. Knowledge was often treated like a resource to be protected. Humans treated it like a tool meant to be passed around. The name Death World slowly began to change in alien records. Some now called Earth a training world. Others called it a resilience world. Trelkesh preferred a different term. One he did not write into any official log. He called it a teacher. One day, a young alien observer from a calm ocean planet sent a private message to Trelkesh. I am afraid of my world, the observer wrote. We have never faced real danger. What if we are weak? Trelkesh thought about the humans below. The way they prepared children for storms, the way they helped strangers, the way they planned, failed, and tried again. He replied, strength does not come from danger, it comes from how you face it. Earth just gives many chances to practice. The humans, meanwhile, were changing too. They began to see their own world differently, not just as a place of storms and problems, but as something rare in the galaxy, a place that had shaped them into what they were. Children learned in school that their planet was considered one of the most challenging worlds known. Some felt proud, some felt thoughtful, some felt a new sense of care for the land beneath their feet. If our world made us who we are, one child said in a classroom video. "We should take care of it." The idea spread. Humans started sharing stories not just about surviving nature, but about protecting it, about keeping the oceans clean, about caring for forests, about working to make their dangerous world a little kinder for future generations. "They are trying to heal their teacher," Porin said softly. Trelkesh watched as humans planted trees in burned lands, cleaned rivers, built safer homes, created new ways to use energy without harming the air. They were not trying to make Earth easy, they were trying to make it fair. One day, Maya asked Trelkesh a question that surprised him. "Do you think your people could live here?" Trelkesh looked at the storms forming on the screen, the fault lines glowing in the data maps, the dense life in every forest and ocean. "Not without changing," he said honestly. Maya nodded. "We didn't survive without changing either." That was when Trelkesh realized something deep. Humans did not see adaptation as a response. They saw it as a way of life. The Alien Council held a meeting about Earth. Trelkesh was asked to speak. He stood before images of many worlds, calm and wild, quiet and harsh. "Earth is dangerous," he said, "but it does not teach fear, it teaches care. It does not reward strength alone. It rewards cooperation, planning, and kindness." Some observers questioned him. What if humans spread their ways to worlds that do not need them? Trelkesh replied, "Then those worlds will gain something they did not know they needed, the ability to face change." The council agreed to open a new program. They would send young explorers not to conquer or study from a distance, but to learn from humans. Not on the surface, but through shared systems, conversations, and training. Earth became a place where other species came to understand how to prepare for the unexpected. Humans welcomed them. They built shared learning centers in orbit. They created programs where different species could talk, plan, and practice together. They did not act like teachers standing above students. They acted like students who had just learned their lesson first. Trelkesh watched it all with quiet pride. One evening, as Earth turned below in soft blue light, Seshri stood beside him. "Observer," Seshri said, "do you think Earth will ever become a safe world?" Trelkesh considered the question. "Maybe," he said, "but I think if it does, the galaxy will lose something important." "What?" Seshri asked. Trelkesh looked at the cities glowing in the dark, the storms forming far out at sea, the people inside those lights planning, helping, living. "A reminder," he said. "That life is not about avoiding the hard parts. It's about becoming better because of them." Below, Earth kept spinning, not gentle, not calm, but alive in a way few worlds were. And across the stars, more and more minds were learning a simple truth. The deadliest planet in the galaxy was not a warning. The months passed slowly, yet in a flurry of activity. From orbit, Trelkesh watched humans live as they always had, moving through storms, building in dangerous places, and helping one another. But now there was something new. Earth was no longer just their home. It had become a center of learning for the galaxy. Observers from distant worlds hovered at safe distances, sending messages and questions. Humans responded carefully, thoughtfully, without arrogance. Every answer carried the same quality that had always defined them: practicality, honesty, and care. One day, Trelkesh watched a human team organize an emergency drill across multiple cities. Sirens wailed, vehicles moved along planned routes, volunteers checked supplies, and information flowed across networks. The storm outside was only simulated, but the discipline and cooperation were real. The humans did not panic, they coordinated, they adapted. They taught each other without expectation of reward. "They do not wait for danger to force them," Seshri said. "They create their own practice." "Yes," Trelkesh agreed. "They turn preparedness into habit. It is a kind of strength unseen in other species." Across the planet, humans continued their ordinary lives alongside these lessons. Children went to school, workers went to factories, farmers tended their fields, and scientists watched the sky and the ground. The ordinary and the extraordinary existed together, woven tightly. One afternoon, Trelkesh observed a human spacecraft returning from orbit. It carried research instruments and fresh data about the storms and earthquakes that still challenged the planet. Engineers and pilots worked together seamlessly, solving small problems immediately as they arose. Humans treated failure not as shame, but as information, a stepping stone to improvement. "They do not fear mistakes," Porin said. "They treat them like teachers." "They learn faster than we can imagine," Seshri added. Trelkesh nodded. That was exactly the reason Earth was considered deadly by the galaxy. Not because the planet was hostile to humans, but because humans had learned to thrive in constant challenge. It forced them to innovate, collaborate, and survive. Earth tested them every day, and they continued to rise to the occasion. More alien observers arrived, each curious in their own way. Some were cautious, sending small exploratory probes. Others were more confident, desiring knowledge about how humans coordinated large-scale efforts and dealt with unpredictable dangers. Humans welcomed every visitor with transparency and patience. They explained systems for disaster response, food distribution, and health care. They described cultural habits that kept communities together. They trust others even when they are strangers, Porin said. Yes, Trelkesh said, and that is rare in the galaxy. Most species guard knowledge and limit sharing. Humans share without hesitation. A message arrived from the distant Council of Worlds that oversaw exploratory contact. They had studied Trelkesh's reports and observed the humans themselves. The message was short. Earth is exceptional. Observe and learn. Earth became a model for resilience. Worlds that had suffered long periods of calm, where citizens were unprepared for disasters, started asking humans for advice. Systems that humans had developed for their own dangerous planet were shared carefully across the galaxy. They explained how to predict environmental changes, how to educate young citizens to be alert, how to use simple tools to prevent accidents, and how to cooperate in emergencies. One alien species that had lived for generations in a mild climate sent a team of students to Earth. They arrived in orbit and were greeted with the same polite curiosity humans showed all visitors. They were given simulations, guided through lessons, and eventually allowed to see real human disaster preparedness operations. They returned to their home world inspired, ready to create systems their own species had never imagined. Humans themselves began to understand their planet in new ways. For the first time, many considered Earth not just a home, but a teacher. Storms, earthquakes, floods, and wildfires were still dangerous, but they were no longer seen solely as obstacles. They were part of a learning process, a curriculum written by the planet itself. Children learned about the galaxy, about other species, and about cooperation across worlds. Schools added lessons on teamwork, problem-solving, and disaster management, alongside traditional subjects. Every student was taught that danger was not to be feared but understood, respected, and prepared for. One day, Trelkesh watched a human family in a city threatened by rising floodwaters. They moved calmly, following prepared instructions. Neighbors helped each other carry children and belongings to higher ground. Volunteers checked in with the elderly. No one panicked. Every action was purposeful, every choice deliberate. Trelkesh realized that this was the essence of humanity, ordinary people rising to meet extraordinary circumstances, repeatedly, and doing so together. Humans were shaped by their planet's dangers, but they were not prisoners of them. They adapted, collaborated, and innovated, not for glory, not for conquest, but for life itself. This is why Earth is deadly, Trelkesh said quietly. Not because it kills, but because it demands mastery of challenge, of cooperation, and of care. Seshri looked out the window. Do you think humans understand how rare they are? Not yet, Trelkesh said. They are too busy living. And that was the secret. Humans did not stop to measure their uniqueness. They did not compare themselves with other species. They did not worry about being exceptional. They simply responded to what was in front of them. Every day, every storm, every challenge, every unexpected event. In orbit, the alien crew observed a massive earthquake. They expected panic. Instead, they saw coordination. Humans moved in teams, followed maps, communicated clearly, and adapted quickly to collapsed roads and damaged buildings. Each action minimized harm, protected the weak, and preserved what they could. They act with foresight, Porin said. They treat the next challenge as part of today's responsibility. Yes, Trelkesh said. They live as if every event is a lesson and every life is a part of the lesson. The human communications networks began to grow more sophisticated. Satellites coordinated with ground teams. Messages spread in seconds. Data was shared openly. Scientists in one part of the world immediately advised those in another. Humans helped each other across borders, across oceans, and across political boundaries. Trelkesh realized that the planet's hazards had created more than survival skills. They had created a species capable of empathy and organized compassion on a global scale. Earth's deadliness had forced humans to expand their circle of care. The galaxy noticed. Messages came from distant species asking for the human methods. Humans shared freely, careful to explain their lessons without demanding anything in return. Their generosity spread knowledge, and that knowledge saved lives. One day, a human child asked Maya Tours on a video link, "Why do aliens care about Earth?" Maya smiled. "Because we show them how to face challenges, we do it together." The child nodded thoughtfully. "So being brave helps others too." "Yes," Maya said. "Sometimes the most dangerous place teaches the most important lesson." Trelkesh recorded these words in his log. He had never written anything like it in decades of observation. He could not record technical data. He had to record understanding. "Earth is the deadliest planet in the galaxy," he wrote. "Not because it destroys, but because it demands growth. It teaches resilience, cooperation, and care. Those who live here learn lessons few species ever face. And they share those lessons freely, becoming teachers not only to their own kind, but to others across the stars." The storms, earthquakes, and wild ecosystems continued. Humans continued to rise to meet them. From orbit, Trelkesh watched families, communities, and cities respond to danger with precision, courage, and cooperation. No hero stood alone. Every success was the work of many. Every failure became knowledge for the next time. Across the galaxy, alien species adopted human methods. They learned to prepare for storms on their own worlds, to create communication systems, to teach young members of their societies about hazards, and to expand circles of care. Earth's influence grew silently but powerfully. Trelkesh observed one more event, a massive storm approaching a populated coast. Humans had prepared. Evacuation routes were marked, shelters stocked, warning systems active. Volunteers checked on neighbors. Emergency teams coordinated in real time. The storm hit. There was damage but no panic. People followed the plans. Lives were protected. "This is why they survive," Porin said. "Yes," Trelkesh replied. "Not because they are stronger than the storm, not because they are faster, smarter, or tougher, but because they face the storm together with care, preparation, and knowledge." At last, Trelkesh understood fully. Humans had not conquered the planet in the usual sense. They had not fought or destroyed it. They had learned from it, grown with it, and used its challenges to become something extraordinary. And Earth had rewarded them with wisdom. From the safety of orbit, Trelkesh sent a final message to the human networks. "Your world is deadly. It demands courage, care, and cooperation. You meet its challenges and rise together. The galaxy will learn from you, as I have. Thank you for showing us what life can achieve when danger is met with intelligence and compassion." Humans responded immediately, as they always did. "Thank you," the message said. "We are still learning. We hope you are too." Trelkesh looked at the planet below. Storm clouds formed over mountains and oceans. Rivers swelled. Forests trembled in the wind. Earth's dangers continued as they always had, but so did the humans. They woke planned, helped each other, and faced the day. And for the first time, Trelkesh felt that deadly did not mean fear. It meant inspiration. Earth was not a warning to the galaxy. It was a promise. A promise that life, no matter how fragile or challenged, could rise, teach, and shape the universe in ways no one could anticipate. Trelkesh smiled. The deadliest planet in the galaxy had become the most extraordinary.